All right, so before 2015, we didn't have it. What was going so wrong that the then Obama administration thought this is necessary?
And that is exactly the point I've made repeatedly. We were not living in a situation where the Internet was broken in 2015. To the contrary, if you think back to the 1990s, where we had AOL CD-ROMs going in the mail and 28K modems, to go from that to gigabit fiber and 4G LTE and companies like Facebook and Amazon and Google becoming globally known powerhouses, that was all because of the free market that started when President Clinton and a Republican Congress agreed that they wouldn't treat this new thing called the Internet like the subway system or the water company or the electric utility.
Yeah.
That model gave us the Internet economy that's the envy of the world, and so it's especially strange that after the November 2014 elections, President Obama just instructed the FCC, you know what, forget it, let's apply rules from the Roosevelt administration to this 21st century infrastructure.
And we were literally talking about 80-year-old regulation that didn't predict the Internet at all. It's the FCC Chairman, Ajit Pai. So there wasn't a problem. I agree with you that had there been all this regulation, we probably would still be using CompuServe and Prodigy. I think that the growth, I know that the growth is because it was free market, it was capitalistic, it gave people the ability to grow these networks to where we are today and well beyond that. So the story that's being told to those who are listening and watching right now, and you know this, is that if net neutrality goes away, then internet service providers like any number that we can name here, and even the locals, can start charging you a Facebook tax. If you want to go to that website, even Twitter, we're going to charge an extra $5 a month, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Is that true?
These fears are completely unfounded. The argument I've made is that prior to 2015, when there were no regulations, we didn't see anything like that. We didn't see consumers being harmed in that way. To the contrary, the complaint that consumers have about the Internet now isn't that companies are considering doing that or are doing that. It's that they don't have enough competition. They don't have enough access. And ironically enough, these heavy-handed regulations from the Obama administration prevent companies from raising the capital and spending it to build these networks deeper into the country. And that hurts rural and low-income urban areas in particular.
Was the push by the administration, let's assume that he had an idea that he thought would be worthy for many people who didn't have access to high-speed internet. I'm going to assume that it wasn't a big regulation, even though you and I wink know that it was. It was about power and control in Washington. But let's say it really was about giving more access to higher-speed internet to people who didn't have it available. At what point did we become socialist in that if I'm an internet service provider, that I can't give different tiers, that I can't say, Ajit, if you want the fastest, I'm going to charge you $100 a month. If my family wants something a little bit slower, maybe $75. If somebody wants the basic service, maybe it's $19.99. I mean, basically what Obama did was say you can't really do that, didn't he?
Exactly. Everyone will get the exact same gruel at the exact same price. And so as a result, whether you are downloading tons of 4K videos all day and all night, or you're a grandmother simply checking email once a day, you're going to pay the same price, even though you're using much less bandwidth. And so to me, at least, that's bad for consumers at the end of the day. The consumer should have the flexibility to choose what service plan works for them, and companies should have an incentive to compete based on what those consumer preferences are.
What's interesting is if I go and buy a car, and 25 years ago, I could buy the very basic car, maybe from a buy here, pay here for $600, and I'd have payments every week. Now I can buy a much more expensive car because I've worked my face off and I have a little bit of money in the bank. I should have the ability to go and buy a premium vehicle, and those selling it should be able to put a premium price tag on it. Why is it different for the internet somehow?
I've never understood that. I've often said this is a very common feature in our economy, that if you go to a restaurant, you order appetizers, entrees, and desserts and drinks, you're going to pay more than somebody who just gets a salad. And that's just the normal way things are done. Same thing on an airplane. If you buy a first-class ticket, you're going to pay more and you'll get more perks. If you want to go in coach, you can do that too. And so here, at least, it shouldn't be all that uncommon, and it's actually better for consumers. Both common sense and principles of economics tell us that.
I know they weren't doing it before, and it's the chairman of the FCC, Ajit Pai. I really appreciate the time. I know they weren't doing this before 2015, but back to my question earlier, because people on Twitter and on everywhere else and calling into my show are going to say, he didn't answer it. Can internet service providers, if net neutrality goes away, charge me extra if I want to go to joepags.com or if I want to go to facebook.com? Is that allowable if net neutrality goes away?
I don't believe so, and here's why. First of all, there's a transparency requirement. So the FCC is requiring Internet service providers to disclose any and all conduct that they would engage in. Secondly, if indeed they were doing something anti-competitive, then the Federal Trade Commission would be expressly empowered to go after that company and take action if they feel that the company is engaging in what is called an unfair or deceptive practice. And what's important about that is that even the FTC doesn't have to prove that a consumer was actually harmed. All they have to show is that this would be a deceptive trade practice, and they can take action against it. So, again, I don't think that fear is well-founded at all.
That is really, really interesting. I love how you explain that, because I'm going to say I go and I get Widgets ISP, the internet service provider that's available to me, and they say, we'll get you on the internet, we can compete with AT&T and Verizon and all these other people, and once I get the service, I'm suddenly blocked from different websites. If they didn't sell it to me with that knowledge up front, they're violating the law, aren't they?
Exactly. They violated an FCC rule if they didn't disclose to you, and they potentially violated an FTC principle in terms of unfair and deceptive trade practices. Consumers should know what it is they're getting, and that's exactly what my plan would do.
Newsmax TV. Watch us on Dish, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, Verizon Fios, or download our free app. Don't have Newsmax TV? Call your local cable provider and request Newsmax today.